Welcome back. When you start thinking about real estate as we do, that is another place where, community really matters. And as you see more and more people get into the buying of real estate these days, then, they really are creating the community around them. And even if you're not buying there, in a little bit, we're also going to talk about leasing, because leasing has become a really big topic when people can't buy, especially if you go through short sale foreclosure. But before we get into that, Tyler Freed joins us, branch manager with Windermere Real Estate down in Lake Taft. And over the past 3 years, he's helped more than 80 buyers and sellers with really positive reviews on Zillow, which we were talking about right before. So you not only do a lot of business, you help a lot of people. They like you.
That's true.
Well, how are you, Tyler? Welcome.
I'm doing good. How's it going?
I'm excellent. It was a good weekend, and now back to it.
Nice.
Back to it. You work with a lot of buyers. In fact, you were saying before the show that you work with a lot of first-time home buyers, in fact, because a lot of, you're looking to grow your business. A lot of people who maybe have bought and sold houses before have relationships which you respect. And so this is kind of your way of, you work with a lot of first-time home buyers. So talk a little bit about you preparing them, because that's a scary notion, especially with the volatility of real estate prices, of mortgage rates. You really have a job to do in preparing people.
Exactly. So we start off putting together a buyer counseling session. It can be getting together with them at Starbucks, or having them come into the office, or while we're out actually touring a home, and just going over the steps in the process with them to let them know what the expectations are and how everything's going to work out. So we sit down and explain to them, step one, you get out and you talk to a loan officer and get a pre-qualification letter together. And then after that, pretty much all the buyers right now, they're online and they're searching and they're finding new houses before I can even send them off to them. So they've got a good idea of what they'd like to look at. Once they have that number to start, or what they're qualified to, just have them narrow it down to 10 and then take a tour and go from there.
Do you think that you have more success, or do you think a buyer, somebody's out looking for a house, has more success by going through the right steps, step one, step two, and not jumping ahead?
Exactly. I mean, that's the worst thing when you got to break the news to someone that they're searching for $300,000 houses and they're only qualified to $250, because they can picture their family living there and all their stuff there, and then they just can't afford that type of home. So going through those steps really helps them get an idea of what to expect, and then to go out there and take advantage of the market the way that they can.
And so when you call it your buyer counseling session, so are you kind of just, what do you mean by that?
That's a good question. So we're trying to figure out exactly what they're looking for, and kind of get an idea, and then also explain this purchase and sale agreement that over the last 10 years has gone from 3 pages to 50 pages, and kind of go over the different contingencies with them. This has to happen to move on to the next stage. And a lot of people wonder, what's my out if this doesn't go through, or my financing fails, or the home doesn't pass inspection. So just kind of clearing their minds, saying, hey, there's a couple contingencies in here that have to go through for this home to be sold to proceed through.
And especially when right now, where people have to go make those offers pretty quickly,
right,
knowing that, okay, this is the first step, but you're not closing tomorrow.
Exactly.
Is probably pretty helpful, I would think.
Exactly, yeah. And you said it. The inventory is just super low right now. I know we're going to talk about that a little more, but you've got to be, out there quick the same day. We're seeing stuff on the east side moving fast, and even down south, homes are selling in a couple weeks. So you got to be ready to go and pull the trigger when you find the right house.
Totally different than a year ago, even 6 months ago.
Yeah, polar opposite. We were talking earlier about the months of inventory being, 6+ months about a year ago. And now, all over Seattle, everything's 2 months or less inventory. So definitely a seller's market.
And so when do buyers really have to understand what that means, or do they just have to understand it's going to be tougher than they think?
That's a good question.
I guess they all want to know the market, right? If you're going to go buy something that's $300,000 or $400,000, $500,000, you might want to know what you're buying.
Exactly. So they're trying to figure out, resale down the road, but right now, how are they going to get that home if they like it and want to pull the trigger? So letting them know that stuff's moving quickly, and that all goes back to the first steps we talked about in that counseling session. You got to be pre-qualified and have that pre-approval letter so you can make an offer that day.
What are some of the biggest questions that you end up answering in those one-on-one first-time home buyer sessions?
Just kind of going through the contract, what to expect. A lot of people, especially first-time buyers, are wondering how much money they have to have for a down payment. So going over that process with them, the different types of loan programs. And they obviously meet with a loan officer after, but just give them a broad idea to get started. And then kind of interesting question. Not a lot of people know this, but who pays the commission? letting them know that that is the seller's responsibility, and I'm here to work for them. And, us realtors don't get paid unless they actually go ahead and purchase a home.
Great deal.
Yeah.
So when you have, when the commission, the way it's structured, now the seller is paying for it, but really it's also kind of absorbed in the cost. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways you can negotiate that, right?
Exactly. So that's kind of factored in with the list price. So, in actuality, the sellers are paying for it, but that's, why that home is X amount of dollars, because the neighbor home that sold had to do the same thing, kind of like that. So
it's almost like every house has done that. So it's almost just built into the general market.
Exactly.
I mean, that would make sense because most people are using real estate agents. Most people are listing their homes, and it's just kind of part of the deal.
Exactly. Yeah, so letting them know that. You think that wouldn't come up, but that's one of those questions that always kind of comes up down the road. So that's kind of a big one. That and the down payment, like we talked about.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. A lot of the questions you get as a real estate agent and broker are actually more finance related.
Exactly, because they're trying to figure out, what are the expenses? Because, this is the biggest purchase they're going to make. They might have bought a car a couple years ago and they got a little idea on interest rates and stuff like that. But when they purchase this home, this is a big decision. Most people are staying in their homes 5 to 7 years, if not longer. So they want, something that's safe and a good investment that they can still live the lifestyle they live and continue to make a comfortable mortgage payment.
Yeah, and that comfortable part is so huge because now, at least from what we see, is now people are actually taking a little bit more time with that process rather than just going, yep, pre-approved, 400,000, I want 410. Which was pretty standard. And then you'd have to figure it out because people undoubtedly wanted more. There seems to be a lot more personal responsibility in these decisions.
Yeah, and that really ties in. We're seeing that a lot with underwriting too. They're a lot more strict. They're getting letters of explanation for job changes over the last couple of years. And I just had one last month.
You're like, I got a raise, so I moved.
There was one where their commute was longer than a half an hour to work for this home. So that was something that kind of came up as a final condition. That kind of caught me by surprise. But that's how above and beyond they're going as underwriters right now.
Because it was longer than 30 minutes?
Yeah, so they had to have a letter.
The underwriter, was it a local underwriter?
It was a local underwriter. I thought that was interesting, though.
Where do they live and work? I mean, it's 30 minutes to get anywhere around here.
Exactly.
They're like, well, no, sorry, we'll use 520. Tyler, we're here with Tyler Freed, branch manager with Windermere Real Estate down at Lake Tapps. You're working in a lot of hot markets, whether it's Seattle, kind of surrounding areas. What are the markets like? Because we don't hit on some of those outside markets very much on this show. We don't go 30 minutes to anywhere, really. But when you look at Auburn or Kent, Lake Tapps, how are those markets comparing to some of the in-city, Bellevue, Seattle, Kirkland areas?
Well, definitely not as hot. I've been showing some houses in Sammamish, Kirkland area over actually this last weekend, and everything that hits the market, it's getting 3 or 4 offers that same day. It's selling that weekend kind of quickly. And down south, Bonnie Lake, Lake Tapps, everything's just a little slower. It's always kind of transitioned. Seattle was hot, and then it kind of spread down, and then we kind of picked up on the momentum that everything was sending. So definitely the biggest difference is just it's not as quick. There's not as much a desire to live in those outer areas than there is in Seattle. And
are people trying to move out of those areas to come up towards the city, or is it just kind of different? Is it just a different lifestyle choice?
It's definitely a different lifestyle choice. I mean, in the past, what they used to do is people would move out to Lake Tapps or Sumner or Auburn because the price of gas was so inexpensive, and then they could just commute to these areas and have a less expensive mortgage payment. Now, as you know, gas has just kind of skyrocketed, so people are kind of taking a second look and getting closer back to these areas that they're working.
Which makes a lot of sense, especially if you have to write a letter for why you would be commuting from Auburn, which is certainly more than 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's close to the racetrack.
Yeah, there we go.
Man, I mean, that's, I like Emerald Down. It's kind of fun. We'll do something there sometime.
Always a good time.
It is. Tyler, we have to go to break here in just a quick second, but I do want to just hit on these further out places just a little bit more because you say it's slower. I mean, when you say slower, when we talk about Seattle, Bellevue, it's not even like fast. It's, the house was on the market and now it's gone. Instantly, it seems. Do you see, I mean, when you say slower, is it just, there's just not as many buyers down there? Are they not making the offers? Is it just not feel like there's that huge anticipative rush?
Right. I'd say the buying population is a lot less down in those areas. I had a listing go on the market on Friday in Federal Way, got an offer Saturday, and it's pending this morning. So if it's priced right, it's going. And the same thing in Bonnie Lake too. I just don't think there's as many multiple offer situations that we're seeing up in the Seattle and Kirkland and Redmond areas down that way.
Well, it sounds like there's a little bit more freedom of time down there when you're trying to select a home, and up here, hey, it's big city, right?
Yeah, you got to be ready to play.
New York Minute. Tyler, thanks so much for joining us again. Tyler Freed with Windermere Real Estate. When we come back, we have talked at length about short sales. Maybe you've had a tough time in a foreclosure. Maybe, who knows? There's all sorts of reasons people aren't ready to buy. But when you're out looking to rent a house, do you know all the things you should be looking for? Nicole Zaffarano's coming up next. She'll let you know. You're listening to Brashenomics.